Hello everyone, this is Mr. Taylor. I've received a few miscellaneous questions regarding annotations the past few days. As we are encroaching on the due date this upcoming weekend for the first half of annotations, I thought I would take this opportunity just to make a few clarifications. The first thing I want to mention, and I mentioned this when I met with each of you all for our research consultation sessions, the critical analysis is considered the halfway point to the final literature review. Again, you are not having to draft and write two completely different research projects. So what you're going to end up doing between now and the remaining weeks of the semester is take your original content, ideas, topic that we focused, the sources you've gathered to this point, and you're going to flesh out your content into a literature review format. I'm going to help you with that. I'm trying to crank out the rest of these. If you have not received your critical analysis back, you will. Bear with me the rest of this week and throughout the weekend so that I can get those to you. When I return that, you're going to get edits as you are expecting, but you're also going to get my suggestions for how you can organize your content and start building and fleshing this out to the final lit review. A distinguishing point I want to make is that final lit review can take a form that you want it to take. Again, I've said this to you all, but you all at this level have the autonomy. You own this process. I'm here just to guide you in the right direction. And so while there is a set format for a lit review in terms of cover page, definition of key terms, a few main elements such as your references at the end, the subsections and organization schematic of your overall work is up to you. It's based on your topic, the argument you're presenting, the best and most logical and compelling way by which to present your argument and your claims and your assertions and the literature. So we'll talk about that. I'm going to give you some tailored feedback to help you get there. So don't worry about that. For the purpose of these annotations, all you're going to do is use the sources that you've already likely used for the critical analysis. So you should have 12 sources that should be scholarly or peer-reviewed based sources already, and the goal is to simply compile an annotation for each of those sources. I'm going to walk you through how to do that real quickly here. It's very simple. They're not difficult. Odds are if you've been keeping notes and if you've been keeping on top of this process as you've gone through it, you've already likely taken notes. A lot of the information that you would put on an annotation is what you would likely keep in your own notes to keep everything organized. So think of annotations as a way by which to organize all of your sources, to extract some of the high points and data that you can use in your sources, things that you want to remember. But also think of annotations as a way to go ahead and correct the reference citation, which is what you find in the references list at the end of your paper. Each annotation will have a reference citation in correct APA format. So you will already have that part done and you won't have to worry about it. So these will make your life a little bit easier. They're going to be your own guidebook, if you will, to all of the sources that you're going to be using in the final lit review. The final lit review requires 24 total sources. So in this assignment, we're going to do 12, and another upcoming module, we will do the other 12. This is going to give me an opportunity to take a look at your sources and provide some feedback there as well to make sure that all of our bases are covered when it comes to substantiating your claims via your source material. So let's go ahead and jump in here. I want to make another distinguishing point that annotations are typically not used much at the graduate level, by virtue of a literature review being a synthesis of literature, research, all of the concepts regarding your topic that have been observed, that haven't, that have been researched, that haven't, that have been focused, that haven't. By virtue of this process in itself, a literature review is going to not be a simple expository base of information. In other words, you're not simply presenting information to simply inform an audience. You are instead doing something compelling with your content. You're making an argument, as we've discussed. You're doing something different that has already been done with regards to your topic. So all of that to say that annotations are typically not done too much or conducted too much at the graduate level when working on lit reviews, because we want to shy away from from that idea of we are just presenting information. Now, while literature reviews do contain a full synthesis and summary of all the research regarding your topic, it's not just that. In fact, that's only a small facet of what a literature review is. However, annotations can be very helpful in that, as I've mentioned, they are a way to evaluate all of your sources and understand, number one, if you are presenting credible source material to substantiate claims that you're making. And number two, that your source material is timely, relevant, not only that it's credible, but it's recent information, that it's written from authoritative sources that are congruent with your field and thus can help bolster your own credibility in the argument you make. For most people at this level, if you haven't had a research methods class in undergrad, annotations help you keep everything organized. I encourage everyone to write an annotation for every single source. You will do that for all 24 anyway, but if you exceed the 24 total required sources for the final lit review, I suggest going ahead and writing an annotation just so you have that information at the ready so you can use it. And also so that I can take a look and correct your reference citations, which tend to be issues when you're putting together the final lit review. Those have to be in the correct format. And this is a way that we can do that. So I have included some detailed notes here, a brief summary, and there's a template here I'm going to pull up in front of us on the screen. This is a sample document. So what you will see is shrunken down on the screen. I'm going to try my best to zoom in here. You will have a cover page. This cover page does not look like our cover page. So you want to make sure you format the cover page as you would a normal cover page per our assignments in the class. So it should look just like the cover page on your critical analysis. For instance, you shouldn't have a cover page number here. This is an implied page 1. Your first page would be page 2. This should be in Times New Roman font. All of the APA guidelines should remain. You should have a header here in all caps. This information should be pushed down a little bit, but for all intents and purposes, I just wanted you to be able to set eyes on what this would look like. So just make sure you're adhering to normal formatting conventions. If you take a look at this page here, page 2, your annotation would be from here up for your first source. So this would be what we consider an annotated bibliography, meaning that the annotations fall one after another. However, I would like you to put them all on individual pages. So at the very top of your page, you won't have this title. All you will have is your reference citation. It'll look just like this. It'll be in APA format, and then you'll have the sentences that answer the questions for the annotation below. And then you'll go to the next page for the next source. So it's one source per page. There's a reason for that. You're going to use this extra space later. So I don't want you to collapse multiple sources onto one page, multiple annotations onto one page. That's where this will be different. So this particular annotation would end at this sentence right here. So reference citation, content. Again, you don't have a title at the top of the page. You'll start immediately with your reference citation. You don't have to put a bullet point up here or a number. You just start with your reference citation. Nothing else should go on the page. And you'll do that. So you'll have, in essence, 13 pages, a cover page, and then you'll have one page for each of these annotations that correspond with half of your sources, 12 total, for the overall lit review. You should be familiar with these sources already, as you've already used them for your research and the analysis. So this shouldn't be something that's that difficult. And then what we'll do in a future module is we will work on the other 12 sources, and we will do the same thing and collapse them into the same document with these. Now, I do want to also point out, I'm going to flip back over here and go to our modules page. On this week's module, this is week 2 of this module. It's a 2-week iteration. I'm going to go right here. If you go to our module page and scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that there are some worksheets here. All of these are worksheets to help you put together annotations. The first 2 are the CRAAP model, and this is basically a model that helps you determine whether or not a source is sufficient enough for this type of research. And one will give you a score based on a set of metrics that evaluate the source, and then the other, that's this one here. So it'll evaluate currency, so how timely is the information, so how recently published, the relevance, so the importance for the needs, and again, needs being substantiating your argument. Authority, so does the information come from an authoritative source, someone that's credentialed? Accuracy, is the information accurate, reliable, truthful? And then purpose, does the reason exist for that source? So basically, you answer these questions based on the 1 to 10 scale, tabulate this at the bottom to give you a total score. This will give you a good indication of whether or not that particular source can be used or whether it should be used based on this model. The next worksheet here is a more qualitative worksheet. So when we pull this up, it has open-ended questions that correspond to that same exact model: currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, purpose. Answer the questions, fill out the information. Those are 2 supplemental research worksheets to help you with each source. By and large, when working on these annotations, this last worksheet is going to be the most advantageous. If you fill this worksheet out and complete the worksheet with all of the information, if you answer all of these questions, it's going to tell you exactly what you need to pick up from this worksheet and then put into annotation format here. So it literally tells you sentence 1, 2, 3, how to do your citation up here, what information do you include. Fill this sheet out and then pick up the same information and then transpose it over into annotation format that we already looked at here. This is 2 ways of doing the same thing. Of course, you can go straight to this annotation sheet here, but I highly encourage answering these questions and inputting this information in the worksheet first and then moving it over to the annotation document prior to submitting. I want to make sure that all of this information has been answered with sufficient information. I want to see that you've combed through the source, that you've extracted all of the data, all of the main points that you are going to use for your own research. And again, you should have already used this in the analysis, so this should be fairly simple for you. And again, making sure that this top part up here, which would be your reference citation, making sure that all that information is correct and in the right order. You'll notice that there is a volume and issue number here as part of that reference citation, which would lead you to believe or make you more inclined to think that these sources would be journals. You would be right in that way of thinking. Most of your sources, at least 90%, should be peer-reviewed scholarly journals that we discussed during our research sessions. And so you want to make sure that you're locating those types of sources. They don't all have to be, but by and large, most of them should be journals, which means they typically have a volume and an issue number, and they should be those high-level, peer-reviewed, professional, and credentialed, authoritative-based sources to substantiate claims and to bolster your credibility. In other words, to create and craft an argument in your final literature review that will and can be trusted. Hopefully this information helps a little bit. Again, these 3 worksheets are not required. If you do the minimum, the bare minimum would entail using this worksheet, completing this worksheet, and transposing the information for each source over to the annotation format. And then you are going to submit only this document. 1 annotation per page, 13 pages. You will notice that an annotation is only a handful of sentences and a reference citation per source. So you're not writing a 13-page paper. You're writing a quarter of a page of an annotation per each source. Let me know if you have any questions or if you'd like me to take a look at your content. Feel free to email me. You can come by my office also. Look forward to seeing what you put together.